Xiaomi 13 Pro. Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and this very sexy, curvy piece of glass is the new Xiaomi 13 Pro. With a 1-inch camera sensor, a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip, and lots of nice extras like faster RAM and storage, Wi-Fi 7, crazy fast charging, literally under 20 minutes for a full charge, and did I mention a 1-inch sensor? Now if that spec sounds vaguely familiar, then you may have heard of this guy. This is the Vivo X90 Pro, also just launched with almost the same camera, same battery, same charging. The two big differences between these guys, well, one is the design. You can see we have this sort of leather material on the Vivo, and also this slightly fingerprinty ceramic on the Xiaomi, but also the chip they use. This has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, this has the MediaTek Dimensity 9200, so I will run a few tests between these guys later in the video. Of course, include this one as well, so an S23 Ultra. But back to the Xiaomi, because this video is all about the 13 Pro. I've been very excited to get my hands on this. On the back, they've used a ceramic material. Well, actually, they call it a 3D bioceramic, which comes in black or white. And it's a very understated design. I think personally, I would go with the white one, which I'm guessing wouldn't show up my mucky fingerprints and smudges quite as easily. But except for those sexy curves, it doesn't look or feel particularly different to any other glass-backed phone. We also get Gorilla Glass Victus, which is not the more recent Plus or even the Victus 2 that we actually get on the S23 Ultras. So lagging behind a little bit there, but we do get IP68 water and dust resistance. I think the goal here was minimalism. There's not a whole lot to talk about except this giant rectangular camera module housing the triple lens setup, the flash, and also we have this very small Leica logo. Then up front we have this 32 megapixel selfie cutout, and some very curvy edges to the screen. Now I don't mind curves, it's just that you can see a little bit of a darkening under the glass at the edge, and it also catches reflections. But as my mum always said, it's what's on the inside that counts, and this guy is rocking the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, as well as new LPDDR5X RAM and UFS 4 storage, and in Geekbench 6. Yes, that's right, 6. I know I'm a nerd when I get excited by a new version of Geekbench, but compared to the Vivo with its Dimensity 9200 and also the S23 Ultra, which has that slightly overclocked version of the 8 Gen 2 because they worked with Qualcomm directly, the S23 is the clear winner in terms of single-core performance, with the Vivo holding its own in single-core, but definitely falling behind in multi-core with that Dimensity chip. But wait, this is where things get interesting. Let's bring in my results from the 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme Stress Test benchmark. And while the S23 just takes the win in terms of the high score, there's not much in it. In real terms, the Xiaomi wins. Less throttling, higher FPS overall, and it actually used the least amount of battery during this test, 7, 10, and 19% respectively, which is pretty disastrous for the Vivo. I also might add that all three phones got pretty warm after that test, which is no surprise, but the Vivo got absolutely boiling. I couldn't touch this. I couldn't pick it up for like a couple of minutes after running that test. I've not experienced that on a phone in a long time. Maybe it's the MediaTek chip or the cooling or the material used, but while it didn't actually seem to impact performance significantly, boy did this thing get hot. I do need more time with the 13 Pro to get a real sense of the everyday battery life that you can expect. And also, I am working on a big battery test with all the flagship phones for 2023, so make sure you have subscribed for that. And while this doesn't have the biggest battery compared to some of its rivals, like 5,000 mAh in here, we have 4820 in here, and also with MIUI 14, where a big focus has been on efficiency and making their software even more lightweight, you'll have to wait and see, but keep your eye on this one. Plus, we get their super duper fast 120 watt hypercharging, literally 50% in 8 minutes, which is insane. Also 50 watt wireless and 10 watt reverse wireless charging. The new 8 Gen 2 chip also brings with it the latest connectivity with Bluetooth 5.3 and of course Wi-Fi 7, although there is only a handful of new routers actually available, so that's more about future-proofing. Now there are two SKUs of the 13 Pro, and I'm really pleased to see that compared to last year's 12 Pro that started with 8 and 128, that's no longer an option, so the entry-level spec of the 13 Pro has 50% more RAM and double the storage than before. Okay, before we get to the camera, let's talk about this screen. It's a 6.73-inch E6 AMOLED, QHD+, 120Hz, and it uses LTPO3 technology, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And we also get all the HDRs, all of them. We have like HDR 10, 10+, HLG, and yes, even Dolby Vision, which you do not get on Samsung phones, because for some reason Samsung doesn't mind Dolby Atmos, but does not like Dolby Vision. Brightness tops out at 1900 outdoors, which gives even the iPhone 14 Pro a run for its money. Cheese! we have to talk about this camera. Not only do we get the new Sony IMX989, but we also have a 1-inch sensor for the main camera, which for a smartphone is huge. We also have a 50 megapixel 75mm telephoto and a 50 megapixel 14mm ultra-wide, which yes, does double as a macro. Sorry, just 1 second. I definitely clean my hands before I start this video, but holding it while I've been filming, I even cleaned it like 10 seconds ago. Definitely go for the white one. Back to the camera though, and as is the trend at the moment, we have a phone company teaming up with a photography company. So this is co-engineered with Leica, and actually the very first time you open the camera app, you have to make a decision between Leica Vibrant and Leica Authentic. And whichever you pick, you have to stick with forever unless you buy a new phone. Okay, that might not actually be true. You can change it anytime you want by tapping at the top here in the photo app. And they are quite substantially different color profiles, so it's definitely worth experimenting with both, but I've tended to lean towards the Vibrant mode. But considering the 12S Ultra had one of the best camera systems on any phone last year, I have very high hopes for this 13 Pro. And with a new chip, new ISP, and some enhancements to their computational photography, Xiaomi say that they've actually improved the focus speeds with this, and we should also get better low light performance. And interestingly, this telephoto lens uses what's called a floating lens design, which is very similar to what we find on high-end DSLR cameras, and it means you can get really close portraits with the telephoto lens. And this works with video as well. The only downside is we don't have any kind of long-range zoom. There's no periscope telephoto here, so we can't match the likes of the S23 Ultra for super-duper long-range zooms. Also, the 2x zoom is in fact just a crop of the main 1x camera, and so instead of the 4:1 pixel binning we have with the 50 megapixel main camera, at 2x we just have a cropped-in 12.5 megapixel shot. Okay, so now I'm shooting this on the 13 Pro in 4K. You can shoot 8K, still at 24 FPS though, no 30 FPS option like you have on the S23, but I definitely need more time with this camera. But first impressions of the 13 Pro's camera, it is very, very good. Tons of modes to play around with, it's versatile with the triple lens setup. I really do like Leica's color science, and it just takes some wonderful photos. And actually, even in low light, I think it does a better job than even my iPhone 14 Pro. Putting a couple of shots side by side, which do you think handled these really low light situations better? And finally, in terms of just using the phone, well, we have Xiaomi's MIUI 14 software on top of Android 13. They promise 3 full years of Android updates, plus a 4th year of security. If you've used a Xiaomi for the last couple of years, then this will feel right at home for you. MIUI 14 really was more about efficiency and speed improvements. One thing I don't love though is just the amount of bloatware, the pre-installed apps that you get on the phone. It doesn't take long to delete them or hide them in folders, but it's a bit annoying. So first impressions, terrific performance, great battery life so far from my benchmarks, a reasonably nice minimalistic design. It looks smart, but it's not really going to turn any heads, although you might like that. Definitely very smudgy though. However, if it's a little bit out of your price range or even just a bit big, then definitely consider the regular Xiaomi 13. Here is one I made earlier. That was impressive. You can see some of the headline specs on the front there. It's a smaller 6.36-inch screen, also 120Hz Full HD, and the camera isn't quite as good. We don't have that nice 1-inch sensor, but it should be a lot more affordable, and we do still get that Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip. So in terms of performance and battery, it's a 4,500 mAh battery, but with a smaller screen. It shouldn't be far off its bigger brother, although the charging's a little bit slower, but what I do like is this flat screen. So full review coming soon. As I'm recording this, I don't have final pricing, although I will update the description and pin a comment below, but this is a flagship Android phone, and it is gonna go up against the S23 Ultra and the Vivo X90 Pro, so expect it to be around £1,200 or £1,300. But let me know what you make of the 13 Pro and also the 13 in the comments below, and would you go for this or the Vivo or the S23? Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.